Hey everybody, welcome to a special Tuesday edition of our virtual happy hour. I'm your host and I'm founder of Untap, Greg. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Tuesday and Thanksgiving week. Exciting stuff going on here. Also exciting stuff that we launched last week is our diversity and inclusion steering committee that we're really passionate about on Untapped here. We aim to use this group at Untapped to really build narrative and talk about these issues that are really transparent and need to be addressed in our industry. And how we're going to do that is starting with some of our fundraising activities that we're trying to do, and it includes our diversity collection at store.untap.com, where we have local artists design about 4 different principles of different glassware that you can purchase for. And all those proceeds go back to funding these initiatives to support diversity and inclusion in the brewing industry. So it's a great way to kind of look at Untap from a different perspective, and check it out at store.untap.com and click on the diversity collection. I've got my own one right here in front of me, which is the equality one, and I'm excited to drink from it tonight. So let me bring on my guest tonight that we're going to be talking about tonight, Tristan Chan, founder of PorchDrinkingcom. Hey, Tristan, how are you?
Hey, doing well. How's it going, Greg?
Awesome. Great. Awesome. Well, we all the time we talk about virtual happy hour. The most important thing, like we always say, is the beer. So, Tristan, what do you have in your glass over there? And obviously, we talked before in the pre-show about you being in Colorado, so you got access to some great beers out there. What are you bringing to the table tonight?
Absolutely. I'm drinking Weldworks Brewing's Pilsner Urquell, and it is a Czech-style Pilsner. And, I still haven't given up on kind of the summer crushers. And so I'm still trying to savor and enjoy the last bit of these crisp, clean, delicious lagers. So
awesome.
Cheers.
Very cool. You're bringing from a great brewery, Weldworks Brewery, and it's not an IPA, so I applaud you for that from that perspective. I have gone on the other side of the equation, and I am drinking a double IPA here. This one is called Code of the Streets. It is a brewery called Short Throw out of North Haven, Connecticut. It's part of a bunch of other breweries, 12% project that do a lot of different beers in their area here. This one's amazing. I love the design on the actual can itself. It actually says Code of the Streets, but it's kind of like all
I love that design.
Mixed together. Yeah, it's really cool design here. I've had this before. It's a double IPA, like I mentioned, more of a hazy IPA. You can't really go wrong with that from that perspective too. So why don't we crack these open? And if you are drinking out there as well, we'd love to hear what you're drinking. Put in the comments what you're drinking, and also make sure you check into Untapped as well, because this is an Untapped kind of show. And if I didn't plug that, that'd be kind of weird for me not to do that. So we'll pour these out in the can here, and we'll do just a global cheers. Cheers, Tristan. Thanks for being part of the show.
Cheers.
Double IPA, can't get me wrong with that. Very juicy, fantastic. I love it. And that beer, is that a playoff of the Pilsner Urquell? I would assume it has something to do with it. I'm surprised there was no cease and desist or something along those lines from there, but it's very, very close in the naming perspective.
Yeah, they're playing off of the fact that they're based in Weld County. So Pilsner Urquell is a playful play off of that name. But it's they've done a really good job with this beer, and exactly what I'm looking for out of a clean Czech style Pilsner. So,
yeah, I mean, I've always had this on the show before. I've really been getting into lagers and Pilsners again. As I've gotten older, these double IPAs are great, but as I just was talking before, I have 2 kids now. I can't be half in the bag in the nighttime for these Pilsners, and lagers really help set the tone for these kind of crisp drinking. And it got better over time. I feel like, the original styles of kind of beer drinking from that perspective, but over time, the more and more brewers are focusing mainly on these lagers and pilsners, which is amazing considering how popular IPAs are. These things are still sticking around, and brewers are dedicating their craft to making lagers and pilsners exclusively.
Oh, definitely. And, we're really fortunate out here to be, in such great territory in terms of really quality lager producers. I was talking to a friend recently about what is Colorado's craft beer identity. And, we've got the Pacific Northwest, which is known for West Coast style IPAs and fresh hops. And, the East Coast has, as of the past couple of years, made a real big name out of the East Coast style IPA. But right. I think Colorado is very unique in the fact that, we've produced some of the most prolific sour and wild producers in, Troy Casey and Chad Jacobson and Crooked Stave, Black Project out here as well. And then we've also got some really, really killer producers of bourbon barrel aged stouts and like big barrel aged beers in terms of Avery and Great Divide, in terms of the kind of building that basis and being kind of the old guard. But then now you have Weldworks and Wiley Roots and, the list goes on in terms of really great barrel aged beers, really good, really strong riser in Burns family artisan ales. And then also from a lager standpoint, you have one of the most world-class, becoming one of the most well-renowned in terms of in the beer industry for being world-class lager producers in Bill, and Ashley Carter here at Bierstadt Lager House. And then you were talking about Wibby Brewing, and I've got a sleeper that I discovered this summer out in Capitol Creek Brewing out in Basalt. But a lot of love for Mash Labs up near Weld County as well. So just really diverse in terms of prolific style producers out here. So I feel really lucky to be living in Colorado.
As I would be too if I lived in Colorado. That's for sure. So,
yeah.
Well, we also, in case of Jonas Slate, we're talking to Tristan Chan, who is the founder of PorchDrinkingcom, and we haven't really touched on that. Maybe you can give us a quick backstory, history of how you got into this. We were talking before about hitting your 8 years for PorchDrinkingcom. Tell a little bit about what it is, people that don't know about that publication.
Totally. So I'm originally from Kentucky, and I really got into beer really when I was living out in Kentucky. Kentucky Ale Bourbon Barrel was one of my gateways, oddly enough. I really love
a big one for
a
gateway.
Yeah, I love the kind of caramel vanilla notes that I got from that beer, and being in bourbon country, it was astounding to me that they were barrel aging beers 10 years ago. And so really, I ended up moving out to Colorado to serve a term with AmeriCorps. And during your AmeriCorps term, it's a year of service. So you're paid less than minimum wage so that you can better understand the communities that you're serving. And so really all that we could afford to do on the weekends was to visit New Belgium and Odell and enjoy free tasters of beer. And so that's really how I got into the beer industry. And so I would belly up to the bar and speak with the bartenders about how communal and collaborative the industry was. And I really wanted to give back and figure out a way that I could be a part of this industry without actually brewing, because I didn't have any background in science. So, being a journalism major, I decided the best way to do that was to tell great stories about craft beer. And so we launched Porch Drinking really as a way to do that. And so our mission from the get-go has always been to promote craft beer through positivity and great storytelling. And I think we've done a great job of retaining that along the way. And so now we've grown to over 100 writers across the country.
Wow.
We're really focused on great storytelling, but also interplaying pop culture with beer and making beer fun and approachable. So you have everything from pairing beers with Avengers characters to doing the best way to Marie Kondo your beer collection. We really try to get creative, asking brewers what they listen to during their brew day playlist, and so you have a little bit of everything on the website.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of publications right now about beer, which is a great thing because it helps kind of spread the message and the word around there. It's always interesting to see the more detailed ones, like you mentioned, bringing it down to an Avengers being part of a beer selection, or what brewers listen to on their Spotify playlist or whatever it would be.
Totally,
it's pretty interesting from that figure. What are some of the craziest things you kind of discovered through your history of working in this industry on the beer side? Obviously, we've had things like GABF being so crazy and all the things we have to write about, to where we're not doing any of that right now because of COVID and everything's more virtual. How has this changed your kind of workflow as you kind of been doing this so long and all of a sudden it shifted because of COVID?
Yeah, definitely. COVID has changed our perspective, as with everything else in the world. But I think one of the things that we've been really good about is at the very onset of COVID, we really focused on how we can support our local breweries. And so, I put the call out to all of our writers across the country of saying, like, hey, if there's anything that you can do to support small and local, whether it's getting the word out on, can releases and bottle releases in your local communities, or telling great stories about how breweries have pivoted. When the George Floyd incident happened, we were very much on the forefront in terms of covering, how breweries were supporting Black Lives Matter and telling those great stories, and really trying to promote diversity within their own organizations in a very authentic and true way. And so, we've been very nimble in terms of responding to how the craft beer industry responds to life in general. And so I think that's one thing that I've been super, super proud of our team. And it is a small but mighty team, but they've really done a great job of getting in on the grassroots level and promoting the craft beer scene within their own backyards.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the kind of the growth there. Obviously, the Brewers Association is a big part of that. And they've launched this initiative, the Small Brewery Sunday, which I think on November 29th, this weekend, to really get people to go out there and kind of engage from a perspective and safely. Obviously, we don't want to encourage any type of festival-like experience here, and none of us want that. But I think supporting these small breweries by buying gift cards, by buying to-go beer and can releases. And we were just talking about before the show, Tristan, that with two young kids, I don't really get a chance to go out, and especially not now with COVID. So having delivery options is really important as well. Do you find the people you talk to for the publications are seeing that these things are making a difference, and these kind of initiatives really helping people, or there's still work to be done there to get the word out, to get it more prolific across the board?
I think it's varied by brewery. I've talked to a wide range of brewers who, some of them were very focused on-premise consumption prior to COVID, and really it's been a little bit more of a difficult transition to get set up with canning and doing mobile canning and crowlering and whatnot. But I think at this point, most breweries, if they're still trying to make it work, they're definitely in the throes of packaging. I've also talked to brewers who have been packaging since day one, even though they're very small. There's a killer local brewery called Novel Strand who just opened about 2.5 years ago, and from day one they were canning their beers in 16-ounce cans. And so for some reason, I think that perception in people's minds of saying like, "Hey, I know this brewery has been canning since the get-go. I'm going to go there and order because I know that I can pick up cans to go" at the beginning of COVID. That's helped them out, and they've been able to grow kind of their follower base during this time when people are ordering so often. So, the big thing that I would say to everyone is please definitely be safe, wear masks, make sure you're washing your hands and whatnot when you're going out and distance. But please do, if you do have the funds available, please do go out and support a local brewery that maybe you haven't been to in a while, or a small brewery that you think could use a little extra support, especially during these times. I think on Beer Twitter earlier this week, Carla Jean Lauder posted a really great point of saying like, "Hey,
yes, I saw that.
Yeah, choose 5 breweries that you would be heartbroken if they didn't exist after all this." And I think that's such a great point to go out there and really support the breweries that you really can't afford to lose.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think that a lot of people nowadays are looking for that next great beer. Everyone wants to get that kind of hot hype beer from that, which is totally fine. But there are a lot of local brewers in your area, specifically the ones that are brew pubs that really rely on the food and also for the beer to survive. And now they're not able to do either probably any one of them. So anything they're able to do, whether you can support it or not, delivery, pickup, curbside, those things is going to make a difference. I think that beer is a very communal thing. We've talked about that numerous times on the show. And now, the beer has always been there for us, and now we get a chance to be there for them. I think it's a really important thing to kind of discuss, to be excited about it and get this Small Brewery Sunday off to a great start on the 29th from the Brewers Association. So I think it's a great initiative, and hopefully that it kind of permeates across the board, from that side. Let's go to some of the questions here we have here. This one's a great question considering it's Thanksgiving week. Recommendation for a favorite beer to pair with Thanksgiving dinner. It's like the number one question everyone asks when Thanksgiving comes. What's going to be in your hand when you're drinking, when you eat Thanksgiving dinner from this perspective?
Well, it's a very, very apropos question because I'm working on a piece that I'm finalizing tonight that should post tomorrow on our site. But the way that I typically approach Thanksgiving is, I start with something light like a Pilsner or a lager because, the way that I do Thanksgiving here with our roommates is we cook as much food as possible and then eat as much of it as possible. So we want to keep it light to start. And then I really like having a nice kind of earthy, kind of herbal, kind of, something with like sage or, I think I picked like a spruce tip IPA from Upslope as something to pair well with all these different herbs and spices that go into the food. So that's a nice pairing beer. And then I like to choose a really great IPA to just cut through some of the fat. So, Telluride Brewing out here has been doing some really cool stuff with hop terpenes. Their Cash Money is one that I've really been enjoying. And so, definitely going to have some sort of IPA to help cut through some of the fat of the turkey and the ham and whatnot. I love doing something that has kind of more of a raspberry or kind of cranberry note to it. Typically, that has always been New Belgium's. Oh, I can't remember. What's the name of that beer? They discontinued it recently.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name either. Hopefully somebody in the comments will call us out here and tell us what this is, but it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't remember what it is.
I know. And they did like a cocoa version like 2 years ago, but anyway, I love having some kind of like fruit forward one to pair with that kind of profile. And then I like to go really big and boozy, like some kind of barrel aged stout or, the brewery that I used to work for, Ratio Beer Works, always does this beer called Nobody's Darlin'. That is a blend of barrel aged a dark ale and a dark lager as well. And so blending a couple different barrel aged beers together gives you nice kind of booziness to it, but a still kind of easy drinking lagery kind of finish as well. I think Jonathan Shikes and Dustin Kraft both mentioned it in the comment section, but Frambozen is the one that we were talking about. That's such a fantastic beer. So ending it on a boozy note is a great way to go. And then also this year, I'm really loving Beer Stout Lager House's Dunkel. That's a great kind of lighter but dark beer, that nice roastiness, but still finishing light so that you can, close out the meal with something not too heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the belt loosening on the waist from the Thanksgiving day from that perspective. So I think, one of the things I look forward to is Black Tuesday and having a little bit of the blueberry pancake or some of the Samoa kind of flavoring they have for their 16.5% kind of sippers as we move toward the end of the evening is typically where I like. But I'm with you. Like I think that I've always been a huge fan of food and beer together, and it's very hard to get an exact pairing right for everyone's taste profile. But the lagers and the pilsners are perfect, at least from my perspective, to starting out Thanksgiving dinner, mixing with your stuffing and your turkey and what have you. And it will save you up to the end. You don't want to go too big in the beginning where you can't get through your mashed potatoes and then you're on the floor right now. So, you have to pace yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I always find that the pilsners and the lagers kind of complement really nicely with some of the meal stuff for Thanksgiving as well. With
all the dark lagers that are out there, the Tamaves, that's one that I'm really enjoying. And, Four Noses out here has been putting out some really cool Czech style lagers, much like the one I've been drinking, but they have a killer dark lager that they released over the summer. So that's a great option too.
Well, you got some fans obviously in the chat. Tristan, this is from Steph. It says, cheers from Ohio. Love you, Tristan.
Oh, that's awesome.
There we go. I've got some other ones in here. Let's just pull them up on the screen. This one's from Jonathan, killing it, Tristan. So I definitely got some fans up there for sure.
Yeah, John Shikes is a killer journalist out here. He does a great job of covering the beer scene, and we had him on the podcast in our most recent episode. So great to see you, John.
Very nice. Here's a question from Mike Snyder. Any thoughts on this year's Goose Island Bourbon County Stout roster? I feel like every year when this happens, there's some controversy or there's something that's happening with every release that they have. But what's your take on this year's kind of release? Obviously, we're not going to have the same kind of Black Friday kind of appeal that people go to these stores and get them. Any thoughts on this year's lineup?
Well, I hate to be a little bit of a party pooper here, but I actually haven't participated in any BCBS releases in probably the last 5 or 6 years. I've really enjoyed some of the killer stuff that, breweries out here release locally on Black Friday. So I've just chosen to support that. I did take a look at the lineup just because we did have it reported as a news piece on our site, and it looked like they've got a killer lineup this year. But I think this year more than ever, we've got to get out and support locals. So I'm personally abstaining, but no hard feelings towards anyone else who wants to enjoy.
I think it's a really good point. I think that a lot of times, even we heard of, recently one of the younger releases got canceled for 2021 in February, and a lot of people are kind of turning back to local and saying, look, that definitely drives a lot of people to come into the Santa Rosa area, and definitely, for the Windsor location as well. And the tourism is great, but right now no one can really go anywhere because of COVID. So how do we help what are within our local environments are. It's like the old mom and pop shops that we want to give our business to from that perspective too. Sure, there's a an allure of this shiny Bourbon County style. There's nothing wrong with it. You could live in Chicago, and that could be your local. Nothing wrong with that as well. But I kind of definitely agree with you on the fact that these local breweries are our backbone of these things, and it would be a shame to have them kind of fold up from that side as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple breweries, even one the closest to my house that kind of just has shuttered its doors, and it's just weird. Like, you don't ever expect that. No one ever tells you, oh yeah, save some money for that time when there's a global pandemic. You can't pay anybody that works for you. That's something you just don't prepare for. So anything we can do is an important piece, and it's a good point to note there.
Absolutely.
All right, here's a great question from Kristen. Cheers from Colorado. Any thoughts on True?
Yeah, I don't know how familiar you are with what's been happening here locally, but unfortunately, our friends at True lost a member of their team recently through some mental health stuff, and so it's one thing that we have really been trying to do a better job at addressing on Porch Drinking in talking about mental health in the craft beer industry, and so. I was good friends with, I'm good friends with a lot of folks over at True. I'm good friends with the brewer that passed, and it definitely was a really difficult kind of week or two for the Colorado craft beer community. A really close friend of mine over at Avery also passed this summer, and so we're actually working with a couple different organizations on trying to create some positive change for the industry. In the mental health space. And so, I would definitely encourage anyone who works in the industry to reach out for help if you need anything. It's definitely an issue that I think too often gets swept under the rug, and we definitely need to come together to really address this head on, because with as much drinking that happens, as much as drinking can be a positive thing for the industry, I've also seen it being a negative, and
right.
we need to work towards being more open and honest about that conversation. So I love the guys at True. They make tremendous beers. The people there are incredible, and so I'm really hoping, my heart goes out to them, and really hoping for some positive change here soon.
Absolutely. I did not know about that, so I apologize for putting you on the spot for that topic, but I appreciate you bringing that up and telling about it.
Yeah, like I said, we got to talk about this stuff. We got to be there for each other, and we got to support each other. So yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Awesome. Here's another question from Kevin. Kevin has cheers from Canada. What do you think about the Canadian craft beer scene up north? Any thoughts on what's been going on across the border?
I've been really impressed with everything that I've had from Canada in terms of craft beer. I mean, Bellwoods is a brewery that I've often just been wowed by. I don't get to try a ton of their stuff, and so I'm not as widely familiar. Our focus has primarily been in the US and squarely on beer, and so we get asked all the time, like, when are you guys going to start writing out about spirits, or when are you guys going to start talking about international? I'm like, there's so much happening here in the US, so I really haven't had a time to devote to Canada. But what about you? Have you had much stuff from the Canadian craft beer scene?
We had a Canadian Beer Week on the virtual happy hour a couple weeks ago, or maybe my timing is all off now after having a kid, so I don't even know what day it is. But I can tell you that the scene up there is vibrant, Kevin. It's definitely something that I've seen is very positive. The problem I see the most is that there's a lot of beers that get exported from the U.S. over to Canada, but not a lot of beers that get imported from Canada over to the United States. And that's the problem. I live in Connecticut. I live closer probably to the border than you do, Tristan, but I still don't have a lot of access to great Canadian craft beers. Obviously, there's a lot of great ones that come in. I don't want to discount them, but I would like to see more. And I think that is really where my take is, that there's a big scene blooming up there, but we don't get an opportunity to get as much as we want, that we need over here. I think that, that's the real issue. And a lot of it's tax related and political stuff and all that stuff that I'm talking about right now. But I think that the main part is that I think that if we got more opportunities to try those beers in the United States, I think that would definitely elevate it and also educate too. I don't really know a lot about Canadian breweries as well, just because I don't get access to a lot of them, and I think that's really what it is. But you brought up a really good point about how everyone is asking, "Oh, can you do spirits? Can you do other things?" We have the same thing on tap. If I have a nickel for every time someone, "Hey, can you do a wine app? Can you do a liquor app? Can you do?" It's all about being able to kind of focus your efforts. And even with a smaller mid-sized team, being able to adequately try to do that is the most important part from there. So it's hard to do everything really well. You want to focus on what you want to do great, which is why I think if we had more collaboration between Canada and the United States, bringing beers and trading beers across the board, I think it'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Looks like Jonathan has a question for you. Again, Tristan, I know that Big Beer Fest 2021 is already canceled, but what are you hearing about spring and summer? It's hard to see the fest season returning to normal next year.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that's something that we in the industry are monitoring very closely. I don't think any breweries are making solid plans as of yet to move forward with any major festivals until we have like a definitive, like, hey, a vaccine's coming for sure, and we can get people all squared away in that sense. But yeah, I've been involved with a lot of close breweries who put on major festivals. Most of their policy is we're gonna at least start making tentative plans. But any plans, a brewery that I was working with recently, their festivals typically in the summer, and they've already said they're definitely not doing in the summer. They might start doing tentative plans in the fall just in case. But more than likely, they're not expecting a beer festival in 2021. That said, I will say that there are going to be a lot of thirsty people once things are cleared up. And so I expect there to be just like unlimited beer festivals every weekend. Once COVID is finally back to normal.
I mean, in the summertime, I can picture them being like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday tilt, like, from that perspective across the board. I totally agree with you. I think that, whether there's a vaccine or not, or what have you, it's tough for any organization to put their mouth out there and say, "Hey, we're going to do a festival in the springtime or the summertime." I mean, the fact that Planet of the Elder, which is not a festival, Planet of the Younger is not a festival but a release, said we're not doing it in February of 2021 already, just tells you a little bit about where people think things are going from that side. So, I cannot wait to drive a beer with people in person and in a big setting. But it's all about your comfort and safety level. And I think that, if anything, we know anything about data and history and stuff like that, is that, being able to protect ourselves with a vaccine is the most important thing to be able to put these things on. So it's hard. I mean, this is a problem when COVID first started, right? Bars and restaurants just laid everybody off and said, I don't know when this is going to return to normal. And it really hasn't returned to normal in any aspect from that perspective, but you just don't know. And how are you going to go out there and say you're having a festival and have to retract it when everyone else is canceling? It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, you don't want to be the festival that,
starts it.
Essentially puts lots of people at risk. And so, it's both, out of safety for consumers, but also safety for your staff too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to have that as well. The other thing that I mentioned on this topic is that, once we start doing festivals again, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be all these festivals happening all the time, and everyone's going to be able to go through that. It's going to be nuts to see how many people are able to get out there and do it again. But again, it's all about time and making sure that this is something we can protect ourselves and make it worthwhile and see what the future holds when it comes to these festivals. Because I just don't, you don't know. You just don't know. That's the biggest problem there.
Yeah.
Here's another question from Ben, and Ben asked, what would you say right now the best way to support local breweries? Buy them directly, buy at a store, show demand. What helps their margins the most?
Yeah, Ben, good to see you, man. I think definitely if you're talking about margins, buying directly from breweries always is the best way to go. But I also know that, it's important to get out there and help to support local retailers as well. So I think a healthy balance of both is a good way to go. A lot of these mom and pop liquor stores are also going to, be, I think they've been doing well through COVID. So I don't want to put too much of a, I don't want to not empathize, but I don't want to lean too much either way. But I will say that, supporting directly from breweries is definitely going to help them, but also do keep in mind that a lot of these mom and pop liquor stores are also going to be in need of some help too. So
everybody needs something. I think that's what it comes down to, is that whether you buy it from a local package store, well, I'll say package store or liquor store, whatever you prefer, you're supporting everybody across the board. So I think the real question is what can we do to have the most amount of support for the most people? Sure, you can go direct to the brewery and that will support them directly. But if you go to the liquor store or the package store and you buy from them, you're not supporting both endeavors as well. Because, it's funny that liquor and alcohol stores were considered essential stores when the whole lockdown started from that perspective. So, it's interesting how that got tagged there, but I think that for the most part, it's really important to kind of keep these places afloat from that side as well.
Absolutely.
All right, here's another question from Alana. Any recommendation on how to break into the beer industry? I'm also about to graduate with an art degree photo, but I'm very interested in joining. Perhaps thanks for your advice from Chicago. It's like a great question.
Yeah, I've seen this done a lot of different ways. One of my close buddies out here, Dustin Hall, is a tremendous craft beer photographer. He goes by the Brewtography Project, and he really made himself open and available to reaching out to all breweries and just saying like, hey, like I am really serious about getting into this industry. And when he first started, he really grinded it out by going to breweries for between 3 to 6 hours at a time and just shooting them in their natural habitat, and doing so for very little pay to no pay actually at the beginning of it. I don't think that that's the healthiest way of going about breaking into the industry. But I do think that, building a rapport with, a couple different local breweries and just making sure that they know that you're open and available to offering, a trial period of doing some photography is a great way to break in and really showing that you're dependable, B, that you're putting out quality work, and C, really serious about the industry. I think that's something that we're always looking for in terms of getting people to retain great talent. With me, we started Porch Drinking and we were covering breweries. We've always been doing this for the love of the game. It was never about making money. We really wanted to build authentic relationships, and I think that's how we've become a trusted source. And so similarly, just building those relationships, making a name for yourself. I think branding yourself in a great way is a good way to make sure that people know who you are and getting your work out there. And we're always looking for talent on Porch Drinking as well. So reach out. We'd love to give you an opportunity to shoot some local stuff and get your work out there as well.
Fantastic. Well, Tristan, I want to thank you for being part of Virtual Happy Hour. It was great talking with you. It's always nice to be able to talk to someone and drink some beer in this time, in this day and age, because it doesn't happen very often within COVID. So I appreciate the time. I want to give you an opportunity to give any kind of last second thoughts about, where people can find you on the internet, a little bit about what you guys are doing, and anything else you want to share with the community.
Yeah, Greg, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I think in this period, a lot of people are, we don't have as good of a physical connection with folks. And so I think it could be a difficult time. Just kind of circling back to the note on, the mental health side of things. If you are feeling kind of alone, or if you need to talk to somebody, please do reach out to a friend, reach out to people, people who are in the industry who can help out and offer some support, because you're not in this alone. We really do want to take care of our fellow industry folks, and please reach out to Porch Drinking and let us know if we can help in any way possible too. This is an incredible industry to be a part of. And I think most, what is the phrase, that 99% are asshole free. So I really do believe in that. And that's why we so fervently support this industry, is because we want to impart a better craft beer industry for everyone else as well. So check us out on PorchDrinkingcom. I'm doing some hospitality consulting over at the Porch Collective. So it's at Porch Collective. And so, always happy to talk to people and offer some advice if you need it. And just don't be a stranger.
Fantastic. Tristan, thank you so much for being part of it. Have a great evening.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Greg.
See ya. Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching our special Tuesday edition of Virtual Happy Hour. We're off on Thursday because Thanksgiving, but we'll be back the following Thursday talking with Mandy. You may have seen her on our 10th anniversary. Mandy loves beer, and we'll talk about some food pairings that she's had put together that'd be awesome to kind of chat with us. So check out untapped.tv for all the scheduling notes of when the next show is going to be. And a reminder, this Sunday, the 29th of November, is Small Brewery Sunday. So make sure if you're able to and you're willing to with safety protocols, support your local breweries from the Brewers Association. It's now, like we mentioned with Tristan, it's the most important part for us to support the local breweries and the initiatives that they do. They're community-based. They're part of our neighborhood. We want to be able to have them for a long period of time. So if you can, you check us out. We're having a special batch on Untapped to check into a beer from the Independence Seek the Seal from the Brewers Association. So check us out on our blog, untapped.com/blog, to get more information. Thank you so much for watching tonight. We'll see you next Thursday. Have a great Thanksgiving if you're in the United States.